Welcome everyone to another episode of Phyll the Love. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host Bryan, and on this week's episode, I'll be showing you how to turn a plastic recyclable into a miniature greenhouse. So before we get started with today's video, there's one thing that we need to go over to make sure everyone has a good fundamental understanding of, and that is, what is the greenhouse effect? The greenhouse effect occurs when sunlight enters a contained area and the heat gets trapped there. This is further facilitated with the presence of water inside of that container. The water will gradually evaporate and become water vapor inside of the air and increase the humidity inside of that container. Humidity is critical to the survival of plants to varying degrees, of course, because plants actually lose the majority of the water that they uptake through their roots through stomata, which are pores in their leaves, through a process called transpiration. You can think of transpiration as the plant equivalent of human perspiration. And as a result, plants suffer when they lose more water through transpiration than they uptake through their roots. The humid air acts like a blanket and traps more heat, making the inside area warmer than the surrounding air. What makes greenhouses so efficient is they allow you to extend the growth period of a plant far beyond its natural growth cycle. Additionally, the greenhouse effect is super helpful when it comes to jump-starting a new seedlings. So now that we understand the benefits and the basics of a greenhouse, I'm going to show you how to construct your own miniature greenhouse out of a water bottle. So let's get into it. Here's everything we're going to need for today's experiment. We have our apple seedlings, opal of course, can never have too many of those, our water bottle, our Sharpie and X-Acto knife, a simple potting soil mix, and some seedlings I have here. I have yet to show these off, and I will be revealing what they are later on in today's video. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make an incision right about where the label would stop on the water bottle with your X-Acto knife, and leave about ½ a centimeter of the bottle intact. So you're just going to cut around the circumference of the bottle, like so. And like I said, just leave a little bit intact. So your end result should look like this. And then we're going to turn our bottle upside down. Now that our bottle is cut, we are going to fill the lower portion of this with our potting soil mix. And in my case, this is just a simple mix of half Miracle-Gro potting soil and another half organic soil mix with worm castings. And that's kind of contradictory to have organic and then Miracle-Gro, but I had to use it, I already paid for it. Once you fill the lower half, just take your finger and make a small indentation in the center. Now we're going to take the soil that we just filled in the lower half and we're going to spritz it and dampen it a little bit. Now I'm just going to set this to the side. Be really careful not to knock this over because no one wants to clean up soil. Perfect. So now is the fun part. I'm going to extract my seeds from the bag here using an X-Acto knife, although I should probably be using a pair of scissors, a lot safer. But when I use an X-Acto knife, I feel like a surgeon using a scalpel, so that's what we're going to go for. And I'm just going to make an incision on the side of the bag. Or actually, just tear down it. I'm just going to tear down the side of the bag. So if we actually look here very closely, we can see that one of our seedlings, the roots have already taken up residence inside of the paper towel here, so I have to be especially careful when I'm removing that one. I'm actually going to use the X-Acto knife to make sure that I do not damage the root structure. So initially I thought that only one of the seedlings had taken root inside the paper towel, and now that I'm looking a lot closer, I can actually see that there's 3, so I'm going to have to be ultra careful. The key when extracting the seedlings from the paper towel is to get as much of the paper towel removed away as possible, but if you happen to get a little bit of it in there, that's fine too. So I've removed all the paper towel from this particular seedling's roots, or root should I say. But you still want to be extremely careful when you're handling this as not to damage the roots prior to you planting it. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to place this into the indentation that I created earlier. I'm going to fill it in with soil. Since this one is already sprouted, just make sure that it's up to the stem, covered in soil, like so. Then I'm going to dampen it a little more. I'm going to set this to the side. So I actually went against what I said earlier and went and got a pair of scissors to free up this seedling from its prison. So one of the many neat things about using this method is that being that we're using a bottle, I've oversaturated the soil just for demonstration purposes. We can easily unscrew this cap here and any excess water will drain out. Now there's two things to be able to look out for using this particular method, and the first of which is mold. If you put too much water into the container in the initial phase of you planting the seedling into the soil and you close it up, of course, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get mold. So the second thing you want to look out for are leggy seedlings. And this here is a prime example. Oftentimes, leggy seedlings are the byproduct of starting your seeds indoors or in greenhouses, because outdoors the plants have to contend with the wind, which forces them to grow strong, sturdy stems. Inside, there's no such thing as wind. So what I've done as a means of remediation is I've split the bottle in two now. I filled the lower half with rocks and water and made a makeshift reservoir, and then I unscrewed the cap off the upper half. So the water reservoir is twofold. In addition to allowing the roots that grow down into it to access the water directly, when sunlight heats the water reservoir, the condensation will travel upwards into the soil and therefore minimize the amount of water that I have to actually apply to the plant. With this open top model, what this also allows me to do is to place this outdoors and allow it to interact with the wind, which will force it to grow a stronger, sturdier stem. Before you go, I have one more thing to show you. Thanks again for joining me on this week's episode of Phyll the Love. I'll be back same time, same place next week, Thursday at 12:30. But in the meantime, be sure to check out other great content we have here on the channel, from Joshua vs. Movies, Joshua vs. Music, and of course, the Infusion Breakdown Show. I'll see you next week.